going to go full vulnerable with this. You never go full vulnerable. So I've been estranged from my mum for a long time, and then in the last probably year, we've been making it work, and I've been doing a lot of qigong and yoga and stuff, and I think that has helped us to down-regulate not only the suffering we've caused each other, but just suffering in general. So would recommend michaelzuper.com. The final page, in When You're Winning, has some techniques to down-regulate your stress hormonally and feel good. So there's obviously a bunch of stuff there. If I didn't talk to my mum for a long time, and our relationship was so painful that I just disconnected from her, and occasionally would reconnect and give up, and reconnect and give up, and now we're sort of in this weird place where she said to me, "You're one of my greatest teachers." And my partner Yanni said, "It's really amazing, not just that you've turned it around, but it's fascinating that your relationship has changed in this way." And I realized that the quest that I went on to understand reality and human emotion and the human condition and masculine and feminine and emotions and thoughts and all that stuff, that was born out of the volatile, dysfunctional household that I lived in with my mother. So does it not make sense that I went on this quest based on that tension, learned all of this stuff, and then returned back to that household with, "Mum, here's the stuff that I've learned because of our suffering," and that it does heal her, and that it has not just created a bond, but it's created health in us, created healing and health and well-being. It makes sense, Anyway, I just wanted to share that. Now, read the toxic masculinity joke. Strap yourselves in. The joke is and was, it's not the point that counts, it's how you feel. Alright? And that joke is to do with arguing with women in our lives. So, my brother and I connected on arguments we'd had with girlfriends. That was that joke, is it's not the point that counts, it's how you feel. I.e., when you argue the point, they don't care. They're like, that doesn't make me wrong, or winning that little battle doesn't make me feel better. And we were just sharing that it's annoying, it's frustrating, because you're arguing a logical point, and that's not what's happening. That's not why she's upset. That's not why she's come to you with an emotion in her body and gone, "I'm anxious because I have overthought the possibility of this happening." And then you logically explain, there's no way that could happen. There's no physical way that would possibly happen. And then it's like, yeah, but I still feel anxious, and it's like, it's not the point that counts, it's how you feel, blah, blah, blah. Now in my old age, I understand that it's not the point that counts. It is how you feel. When someone comes to you with anxiety in their body, and the stress hormones, as I mentioned, have been created by one's own thoughts, discuss. The thoughts replacing that do not, like reframes and stuff, they don't sink in immediately. You don't just go, "Oh, my anxiety's now cured. Don't worry. Oh, your anxiety's cured." Okay. No. It's like, we can either learn that the logic is flawed and then not employ it next time to trigger ourselves. But at the time, arguing logically does not take away the fight or flight response, right? What does take away the fight or flight response is calming down, is taking a minute and down regulating. And those yin practices on my website, and that you can find all over the internet, just help you to down regulate your resting heart rate to a lower baseline. So when you do get stressed out, it's not as stressed out and doesn't require as much down regulating. So being a calm person, it's easy to remain calm, and it's easy to get back to calm if you've been thrown off. So would recommend. Now, the thing with the toxically masculine joke that I wanted to bring to one's attention is, we not only encountered frustration in our relationships with our girlfriends, but that was based on our blueprint of what women are like, with this, this mother who both of us have not spoken to for long periods of time because we felt she was difficult. And if I'm completely honest and vulnerable as a man, the sensitivity to her discontent, hurt us deeply, and it was out of sensitivity that we decided we couldn't participate, and we decided to disassociate from that relationship. Now, my question to you is this: if there's toxic masculinity in the world, right? If, let's just say that it's true and that all of this third wave, fourth wave feminism stuff is correct, and that, you know, some of those jokes about sex acts that are quite violent, I understand that's not cool. The angry pirate and the rusty trombone and the donkey punch and stuff. Like, being a woman who's just genetically less strong than men and hearing jokes about violence towards women, it's not funny, okay? And I understand why guys are like, no, but it is funny because it's so wrong. That's why it's funny, because you'd never do that. You'd never, you know, that's ingrained at a very young age before we're too young to understand why. Like, well, why is she allowed to punch me in the face? We're both 3. She got angry and punched me. Why can't I punch her back? And the teachers just go, you just can't. That's just, boys just aren't allowed to hit girls. And you go, oh, okay. So I get time out. She punched me, but I get time. Okay, fine. And we just accept it from a young age, you know? So that's why some of those locker room jokes are funny, is because men feel really disempowered against what's imposed on us by the fairer sex. And in my example before, my brother and I were really emotionally diminished by that relationship because, you know, we didn't have the emotional intelligence to understand how to comprehend it as children. And even now, as an adult, I'm coming back with all this new information to form this relationship, and it's still very laboured. It is still quite difficult. But as I was asking you, if we live in a world where toxic masculinity exists, is it not based on the suffering of men? Is it not based on that we're afraid of women? We're deeply afraid. We lack the social and emotional intelligence to feel safe in certain conditions. And while we might be comfortable with anxiety, perhaps, because we've clocked that one, are we comfortable with depression? No. Or vice versa, we're comfortable with depression and not anxiety. With fear, yes. With anger, no. You know, I've just been on this anger management journey. And, you know, Yanni said, you still get angry and it's probably worse. That was her comment. But I'm more congruent with it. I know what's happening. I know when I'm afraid, and I know when I feel like defending myself. And I know when I need to tell her, like, can you just slow down because I'm getting scared and I don't want to get angry because I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt your feelings, you know. More aware of it. So now I'm more congruent with anger. Am I congruent with all emotions? Probably not. Disappointment, still working on it, etc. So is toxic masculinity not based on the frustration of not being congruent enough to hold all aspects of the feminine, when emotional intelligence is not only expected of women, but it's nourished and discussed, and circles of women are constantly like navigating these things together and then indirectly imposing them on men who are not equipped to deal with them. So does the frustration come out in jokes in certain ways? Is it not based on suffering? I just want to get it out there that it's not a conspiracy against women to oppress. You know, maybe it was. Maybe there was a controlling of the reproductive systems of women because families didn't want to have to pay for bastard children and it would bring great shame upon the nation, blah, 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 all that stuff. Pre-contraceptive ideals, traditions, and bullshit, basically bullshit, okay? And it was like, back then patriarchy was contraception. Do you get what I'm saying? But in the last 50 years, no one I know has actively consciously participated in trying to stop women from doing anything that I know of, you know? And maybe like spending money from a joint bank account, that's between a husband and wife, all right? That's not, if it's not been resolved, it hasn't been discussed with vulnerability. It hasn't been discussed with heart open, in my experience, from what I've seen. So my next question is third wave feminism, the one that's not political, that's not about equal rights, it's actually memes and hostility and frustration and anger, is that not based on the suffering of women at the expense of being afraid of men? You know, is this nasty feminism and toxic masculinity, is it not the same thing? Are we not afraid of each other? Are we not unable to hold the space? And here's the kicker before I hang up. Is it not that we're afraid that we don't deserve the love that we desire from the masculine? from the feminine, from the non-binary relationship that you might be having with someone? Is it not that we feel unworthy of the love that we desire?